Hey there, folks. Welcome to another OUinsider.com post-practice blitz. Parker Thune alongside Brandon Drum. It is the best week of the year, folks, and the best day of the year is only a few days away. OU Texas this Saturday from the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas. The Sooners come into the Red River Shootout 5-0. Texas comes in 3-2, but there's one major variable in the equation that remains unsolved, and that is who will be playing quarterback for Oklahoma when they take the field down at the Texas State Fair. Will it be John Mateer, at that point 16 days removed from thumb surgery, or will it be Michael Hawkins, who's coming off a 4-touchdown, no turnover performance against Kent State that was statistically impressive, but didn't pass the eye test for a lot of fans and pundits alike? That's the big question throughout the week, Brandon. And naturally, most everyone on the roster and amongst the coaching staff that we've had the chance to speak with, they've downplayed the significance of planning when you don't necessarily know with absolute certainty who's going to play quarterback on a given week. But it seems to be the case, and fans have their opinions, and that's fine. You're entitled to yours, but it genuinely seems to be the case that this team is confident in A, whoever trots out there as the starting quarterback on Saturday, but B, confident in their overall chances to win the football game regardless of who that guy is.
100%. At the end of the day, look, the team is 5-0, and they're 5-0. John Mateer had a lot to do with it, but he wasn't everything. And that's how this team's going into this game, as in they're a team. That defense, they feel really confident in. I would too if I was Oklahoma. It is the number one defense in college football, folks. Like, literally the number one defense in college football, Parker. Like, statistically, eye test, it's the number one defense. And when you have that, I think you don't care who's at quarterback, to be honest. I think it matters, but it doesn't matter to the point where you're like, okay, we're not going to win this game because of who's at quarterback. And that's how this team is moving forward. Also, I talked about this on the Behind Enemy Lines with Ian Boyd. That'll be coming out today, but it's just, he needed that game. Michael Hawkins needed that game. You're not going to get the same Michael Hawkins this week that you got last week. There's going to be some differences. Number one, Parker, is the offense is going to be more open. He played a very bland offensive playbook versus defense. Yeah, it was Kent State, but they were coming at him with some exotic stunts and blitzes and all kinds of stuff. When you're running 7th and 8th grade offense versus a college exotic defensive calls, sometimes, no matter how good your talent is, sometimes you're going to look a little off. But he looked good more often than he looked off. And a lot of times when he looked off, it was just the receivers and him were on the wrong page. Well, guess what? You have another week to iron that out. This is week 3 now of being able to iron that out. So I think you're just going to see a different, if it is Hawkins, obviously.
Now, keep in mind that whoever trots out there as Oklahoma's starting quarterback on Saturday is going to have a huge asset that just got back up to speed, just re-entered the mix last week. And that, of course, is the Arkansas Pine Bluff transfer, Giovanni Gibson, who caught just one pass for 5 yards in his return to the field. That was the only time he was targeted. But if we go back to spring, as we've said time and time again, the word prior to his injury in April that cost him 5 months was that he was arguably the best wide receiver on Oklahoma's roster. And at 6'2", he looks like $1 million out there in the uniform. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He's what it should look like physically. There's a lot of excitement surrounding Giovanni Gibson and what he could bring to this offense the rest of the way. And he got a chance to speak to the media last night.
Yeah, he did. I was over there with him last night. I thought the funny thing, or not really the funny thing, I thought the cool thing about it was, the answer he gave me when I asked him about the catch, right? Like in being hit. And he said, I got the wind knocked out of me when I did. And I said, well, did that give you confidence that you're going to be all right no matter what now? Because you took a big shot. That's essentially kind of how you got injured to begin with was, yeah, you got rolled up on, but you're playing football again. And he goes, that's it. I'm playing football again. That made me realize I'm good. I'm playing football. I'm doing what I love. And that was more than anything else that gave me the confidence. It made me feel that I'm back and I'm ready to go. I needed that. And, there were a lot of other questions about the game and everything like that, just getting that underneath his belt before the OU Texas game. I did think the funny thing was, I asked him about the essentially the fans, right? And if the players had talked to him about the fans, he looks at me and goes, I haven't talked to any of the fans about the fans at the game. I said, no, no, no. Have the players talked to you about how wild the fans are when you go into it? He goes, they've said some stuff. They haven't told me exactly or told me any stories about it. And so I'm wondering now if he even talked to the other teammates now about some of the crazy stories that they've had happen to them between that OU Texas game, because there are a lot of guys, Parker, that have never played in this environment. And I think it's going to be a shell shock for some of them. And particularly that gives, if it is Michael Hawkins, Parker, OU does have the upside on that. They have the one quarterback that has played in the game.
Finally, Brandon, is there a bigger mismatch in this game, at least on paper, than this Oklahoma defensive line versus this Texas offensive line? That seems to be where the Sooners can really make some hay on Saturday.
Yeah. And again, Ian Boyd agreed with me on that last night. He said I asked him, I named four defensive tackles, Parker. I said, the biggest problem is the interior offensive line for Texas. He said, yeah. I said, and I named it the defensive tackles for Oklahoma. And he just started shaking his head. And I said, why are you shaking your head? And he said, dude, that is scary. That is the scariest bit. And that's essentially, he's correct. OU's defensive line is so dominant. 21 sacks, Parker. And let's be honest, they have like 23 or 24. The penalties have called those back, right? And one of them just got taken away for, I can't remember what it was for. But you're talking about a team that in 5 games is averaging literally 5 sacks, essentially a game, if those penalties didn't take place. That's scary. And when you're giving up as many sacks as Texas has so far, and as much, particularly against Florida, right? They gave up 6. Florida had 3 sacks going into that game. 3. They had 6 versus Texas. Did they figure out a recipe? And is the aggressiveness, the talent that Oklahoma has, is it that much more daunting when you add that environment that OU Texas is? Could that really, really overwhelm not just the offensive line, but Arch Manning? That essentially is the game this weekend. That is the game this weekend.
There's absolutely no reason why Oklahoma shouldn't be able to win the battle in the defensive trenches. I feel like a question of equal significance is, and this might be what the game hinges on, can Oklahoma win the battle in the offensive trenches?
Exactly.
Because that's been a real Jekyll and Hyde act so far this season. From that,
they played better against good teams, though. That's the thing.
They've risen to the occasion.
Yeah.
There's no question. They've risen to the occasion against Michigan and Auburn. Can they do the same in the most pivotal game of Oklahoma's season to date? We shall see. It's no doubt something we're going to continue to talk about throughout the week as we cover this game leading up to it. And obviously, we will be there Saturday to bring you guys coverage from the Texas State Fair, from the heart of Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Very much looking forward to it, as we know all of you are as well. Subscribe over at OUinsider.com to get all of the intel leading up to the game. We'll be tracking John Mateer's status, etc. Certainly subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. Just a real easy way to keep up with all the video content that we're producing on a daily basis for all you rabid Sooner fans out there. For Brandon Drum, I am Parker Thune. We'll see you Saturday, folks, at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas.